Mark your calendars because Cheekwood is throwing its very first community celebration, June 3rd through June 7th. And guess what? You're invited. Enjoy 5 days packed full of fun for all ages, from free yoga and $5 gardening classes to live music, puppets, and even a Taylor Swift dance party. And when the sun goes down, catch the Princess Bride under the stars or a Shakespearean cocktail crawl. It's all happening at Cheekwood. Learn more at cheekwood.org. Cowboy Up Nashville. Music City Rodeo, Nashville's first and only PRCA rodeo, is coming to Bridgestone Arena for 3 unforgettable nights featuring the world's top pro rodeo athletes and live music from Nashville legends. Reba on May 29th, Jelly Roll on May 30th, and Tim McGraw on May 31st. Tickets are on sale now at Ticketmaster.com, each night ticketed separately. For more information, visit MusicCityRodeo.com. Today on CityCast Nashville, our beloved Belcourt Theater is turning 100 years old. Executive Director Stephanie Silverman joins us to reflect on its history, how it was saved from the brink, and why we all should be celebrating a century of cinema in Nashville. It's Thursday, May 15th. I'm your host, Marie Cecile Anderson, and this is what Nashville's talking about. As the executive director of the Belcourt, we've got to ask you, what are your top 3 movies of all time?
Oh, this is the hardest question that I ever get asked. So it's hard for me to have a top 3, but I will say for sure my top 1 is this film from the 80s called Breaking Away. A lot of people have seen it. A lot of people haven't. It was a sweet little art house indie even in those days. And it's about bicycle racing in Bloomington, Indiana. And it is a magical, hilarious, heartfelt film about family and goals and expectations. And I just love it to this date.
Oh, well, that is a great answer. I love to know what's inside your brain. I will say, I think my absolute favorite movie is still Jurassic Park.
I mean, talk about a well-made film, right? Yep. It's just got all the elements.
And it holds up, which is so neat.
It does.
It's great.
It does.
All right. So what makes going to the movies so special? Can you give us your best Nicole Kidman style sales pitch?
I can, right? I mean, heartbreak does feel good in a place like this, no doubt about it. But that's not only it, right? It really is the shared experience part of being in a theater and experiencing large-scale storytelling in community. So it's both the scale, the screen, the sound, all of the other elements that make being in a theater special, right? I know people have lovely home systems, but they are not what we have here. They are not a beautiful Barco laser projector with, you know, the definition of your dreams. So it is all of those things then in combination with the fact that you're with other people laughing and crying and just experiencing something. There's no doubt that when I watch something at home that I have also seen in the theater, the moments of sort of peak experience are different when I'm sitting by myself or even with my family in my living room. It's that magical formula of great scale, technology, beautiful storytelling, and humanity that make being in a theater a really special, one-of-a-kind experience.
Yes, and I love the bond that it makes with friends and family when you go to something like that.
Yeah, and the other thing I love as someone, you know, I have to travel by myself a fair amount. There's just something about theaters that is this sort of additional safe space where if you're a solo human, you can be with other people and in community, but by yourself at the same time. There aren't a lot of spaces where that is truly possible in the modern age. And then, you know, at least here at the Belcourt, we have this amazing front of house team who will talk to you, you know, who will be thrilled to engage in your thoughts and feelings about what you just saw. So it just adds a sort of another layer of togetherness that I love.
And you're celebrating 100 years. Happy birthday, Belcourt.
Thank you. Woo, woo.
Woo, woo. How are y'all choosing to celebrate?
Well, you're going to be hearing about this for a year. We are not going to let it go because it's a big deal. And I think especially in Nashville, right, in a city that feels quite new in a lot of ways, to really celebrate something that has been serving a community for 100 years is a really meaningful thing. And I think it's important to say that the Bell Court, as people know it today, is just one of the many sort of tenants who have had the lucky responsibility to be the care and tending agency for this building. But there have been theater companies in here. There was, of course, the Opry for a few years in the 30s. So it's continuously served Nashville, but in many different ways. Always, though, as an arts institution, and that 100-year-old arts institution in Nashville in 2025 is celebrating 100 years, I think is something really important.
Now, how long have you been the executive director?
A little over 18 years. One of the special things about the Bell Court and our staff is we're long-timers. People like working here and they stick around, and I'm not even the longest serving staff member.
Well, so I read about the Stories project that y'all are conducting this year. Can you please tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, one of the funny things about the Bell Court and really the building that the Bell Court is in, which has been both the Hillsborough Theater and now the Bell Court Theater, there were not a lot of documented stories or photos or archival elements that we as an institution owned about our own building. So in the run-up to this 100 years, about 2 years ago, we had a really remarkable staff person who had just finished their master's degree program as a public historian. I sat down with them, with Teddy Minton, who is running this project, and said, at 100 years, we need to, one, have a big throwdown of a celebration year, but two, we really need to lean in to understanding who we are and what we've meant to this community. So one of the really important components of that is the Bell Court Stories Project, to collect the oral histories of people who've had meaningful experience, positive, negative, life-changing, in good, bad, or other ways, whatever they are, with this building and with the institutions that have been its steward over the course of those 100 years. It's a very easy thing to do. You can find it on our website. You go to our website, look for Bell Court Stories. It's all self-driven. There are prompts in there. You do it from the comfort of your own home. But if you love the Bell Court and you have a story to share with us, it's the very best way to do it. It gets transcribed. It goes into our archives. It's something we can use to tell other people why we matter. I encourage anybody who's got a Bell Court story to just go right there and share it with Teddy and share it with the building. We all love hearing them. They're really wonderful and also help us in the next 100 years, right? So someone eventually down the line is going to have all of these stories about what the Bell Court meant in 2025 and the years prior.
So where do people go to share their stories?
Go to bellcourt.org and you'll see a Bell Court Stories link, and it's self-guided from there. It's very easy. It's using this wonderful program called Their Story, which was actually built to collect the stories of Holocaust survivors, who since then has just been this wonderful tool for historians to be able to collect oral histories of institutions all across the country. And now the Bell Court's one of them.
I'd love for you to tell us about what the Bell Court Theater was like when it first opened.
It actually was May 18th. So we're really coming up on that first opening day. It opened with a film by a filmmaker called D.W. Griffiths, who's famous for some pretty questionable filmmaking. We didn't open with his most questionable film, but he was in this space. That was opening day. You would have entered the building through what is now the Villager Tavern. So if anyone who comes to Hillsborough Village has a beer in the Villager, that was actually the theater's front entrance in 1925. That was the lobby. You entered into what is now our 1925 hall, and that was the only space. There wasn't a 66. There certainly wasn't anything upstairs. There was one space. It was 800 seats, which is different than our 332-seat hall. But also the theater went all the way back to what is now Belcourt Avenue. It would have been a pretty not palacey, glamorous room, but it did have this gorgeous plasterwork that you still see today around the stage. That frame that goes around the stage is called the proscenium arch. That plaster that you see today is the original plasterwork that was done by an Italian plaster artisan who came in and did that beautiful work. So it was a pretty theater. It was not like a downtown movie palace. It was always intended to serve a neighborhood. And at that point, Hillsborough Village was an emerging suburb of Nashville, a classic early streetcar suburb. So it would have been different in some ways, but also I think quite the same feeling, which was about serving a community in a less grand way, but in really a gathering, welcoming, pragmatic way, if you will.
So would patrons hop on a streetcar and then come to the movies? Would they dress up? Was movie going still a novelty thing then?
It was more regular occurrence by that point, by 1925, but it was still in the early days. And certainly movie going was one of the main sources of entertainment for people and was absolutely considered a treat. Our story, though, is that the movie part of our life was sort of shut down pretty quickly because a much fancier, more beautiful theater opened on 21st and Wedgwood, where the Cornerstone Credit Union is right now. There was another theater there called the Belmont Theater. They were fancier, they were prettier, they were operated by Tony Sudicum, a name people might recognize from the Adventure Science Center. And he basically kind of put the little neighborhood Belcourt at that point, called the Hillsborough, out of the movie business because he was a little bit of a monopoly guy. So he grabbed the movies for the Belmont, which forced us for the first time in our history, which we have done many, many times since then, to calibrate, right? To be flexible, to make an adjustment and to do something else. So that's when you started to see more theater performances come into this building and for a long stretch populate the stage here.
Being in the South, was the Belcourt subjected to Jim Crow laws or segregation policies?
We certainly would have been, but I think the truth is we were in a very white part of Nashville at that point. So it wasn't quite the same sort of obvious discrimination that you see in the movie palaces where there was a balcony, where they were sending Black audiences and white audiences were on the ground floor, because I think we were segregated by the nature of our location. There were other neighborhood theaters that were serving Black communities in Nashville at that point, the Ritz being a pretty famous one. And the way even then you were starting to see segregation happen in the straight up construction of a city, we were already seeing some of those shifts happen organically. So it was more like, this is a neighborhood that's largely white people.
Nashville has plenty of live music, but you're missing out if you've never experienced Musicians Corner in Centennial Park. It's unlike anything else in town. First off, it's a 16-year-old multi-genre concert series that's absolutely free. Plus, it's pet-friendly, has a kids' activities area, and you can pull out a blanket, grab a bite, and hear some of the finest musicians from Nashville and beyond. Musicians Corner takes place on Friday nights and Saturday afternoons through June 14th with live music, food trucks, artisan vendors, craft beer, wine, cocktails, and more. Friday, May 16th features Johnny Fritz with Joshua Headley, Lady Couch, Autumn Nichols, and more. Saturday, May 17th has Susto String Band, Sugar Daisy, Riley Whitaker, and others. It's produced by the nonprofit Centennial Park Conservancy and supported by CityCast Nashville. Visit musicianscorner.com for the full lineup. If you haven't heard yet, Cheekwood is hosting their very first community celebration, June 3rd through June 7th. That's 5 days packed full of fun for all ages. During the day, you can come and enjoy free yoga with Small World Yoga. Explore a musical petting zoo brought to you by our friends at the Country Music Hall of Fame and Museum. Catch performances by the Nashville Opera or the Nashville Puppet Truck. There will also be a friendship bracelet making station, animals from the Nashville Zoo. Oh, and how could I forget? $5 gardening classes for the whole family. Then, as the sun sets, grab dinner from one of the many food trucks and watch The Princess Bride under the stars. Or sip your way through a Shakespearean cocktail crawl, courtesy of the Nashville Shakespeare Festival. You can also catch an evening with Grammy Award winner Rodney Crowell, dance to music from Sonny Dada and his 12-piece band, or sing along to everyone's favorite Beatles songs with Forever Abbey Road. There's something for everyone of all ages, so come on by. Learn more at cheekwood.org.
Hi, I'm David Plotz, the CEO of CityCast. We've all set health goals: lose weight, exercise more, eat better. But without a plan, those goals often fade. That may have happened to you. It has definitely happened to me. And that's where Prolon comes in. Prolon's 5-day fasting mimicking diet gives you a science-backed, structured approach to stay on track and see real results. And now Prolon is upping their game with the new next-gen 5-day program, delivering the same science-backed benefits in a cleaner, more convenient, and more flavorful format. Prolon is a plant-based nutrition program featuring soups, snacks, and beverages designed to nourish the body while keeping it in a fasting state, triggering cellular rejuvenation and renewal. NextGen builds on the original Prolon with 100% organic soups and teas, a richer taste, and ready-to-eat meals. Developed over decades at USC's Longevity Institute and backed by top U.S. medical centers, Prolon has been shown to support biological age reduction, metabolic health, skin appearance, fat loss, and energy. I've been doing the 5-day program, and I feel so much better. I really enjoy the tasty energy bars, the snacks and soups, and the fact that I can enjoy meals, even though the calorie count is super low. The flavors and textures are excellent. An olive oil snack here, broccoli and quinoa soup there, hibiscus tea, a yummy nut bar. It's got the benefits of a 5-day fast, but doesn't have the challenge of doing it with pure liquids. It's a system reset. And also, I know this sounds funny, but it's not. The packaging and directions are fantastic, clear, and well-organized and thoughtful. For a limited time, you can be first in line to experience the new Next Gen at special savings. Prolon is offering CityCast listeners 15% off site-wide, plus a $40 bonus gift when you subscribe to their 5-day program. Just visit prolonlife.com/city. That's PROLONLIFE.com/city to claim your 15% discount and your bonus gift. prolonlife.com/city.
What movies or events have elicited a wild reaction from fans, past and present?
Well, I do know there's a very famous photo that was in the Tennessean, that's in the Gannett archive, of patrons coming to see The Last Tango in Paris in the 70s when the Belcourt was operated by the Carmike Company at that point. There's just a line around the building, right? Because Last Tango in Paris was famously rated X at sort of the last minute and became kind of a sensation. And so there's this very funny photo of all of these people lining up to see this movie, which I do think only played at the Belcourt at that point, because the Belcourt, though it was operated by a commercial operator, was sort of the theater where they would do the edgier work. I've heard from other people in Nashville that even in those days, they saw Jacques Tati films and a part of the French New Wave here. And so that was an echo of what we were to become. But that photo always makes me laugh. And certainly over the years, we have shown films that are controversial. And I'll have to say, a thing that I love about Nashville and Nashville audiences is sometimes I sort of batten down the hatches a little bit for maybe some anger, maybe some frustration, maybe a little bit of negative audience feedback. But I do feel like our audiences really walk in the door willing to take a risk. And they may not like the movie, but they're glad they saw the movie. Even when other audiences, for maybe some Lars von Trier films or other films that are really pushing boundaries, my colleagues in theaters in other cities are getting much more negative feedback than we are. And that has always been a really wonderful thing, I think, about this city. And whether it's fair or not, I sort of link it to the creative economy of Nashville, that a lot of those creatives are the people who are filling our seats, and they understand the nature of risk-taking and that sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but it's sort of part of the creative process and something worth acknowledging, even if you're not really going to celebrate it for that particular film.
I'd love to hear that because it really does kind of lift up our film lovers. And how would you rate the film buffs here in Nashville? Are you finding that our city prefers art house films or the new blockbuster hits?
I mean, I think what I love about real film fans is they are 100% all of it, right? It's not a pick or choose. It is loving Jurassic Park and Breaking Away all at the same time, right? It is that sort of intersection of curiosity, period, for good storytelling on film. So what's really fun for us to see here is someone like Ryan Coogler, who's famously, right, the director of Black Panther, has this huge hit in the big cinemas right now called Sinners, but started by making this really heartbreaking, beautiful film called Fruitvale Station that was a Belcourt film, right? Came out of Sundance, that he made that journey and came through our theater as a part of that journey. So we were able to sort of help build audience, help build awareness, and then he could continue on and be, I mean, he's just an extraordinary filmmaker, so it's not like he needed us. But we're so excited when we see filmmakers on that trajectory. It's lovely to be a part of that. And then what I love to see is when those audiences who met them first at that first moment of the film with Fruitvale Station, say, and then could not wait to get in to see Sinners on opening weekend because they want to keep supporting an artist that they love. I feel like that's true of our audiences a lot. They are engaged with the creator and the film itself. We love actors. We love everyone involved with a film project, but directors kind of are so key to our world. They're the people who come back over and over and over again with new work for us. So we just love building fan bases or being a part of the world that builds fan bases for really exceptional storytellers.
Being part of their journey to success. I mean, that's really special.
You'll see many times with films, when an artist's new film is coming in, we love to dig back into their earlier films and put them back on screen so you can like have this refresher course. You know, a Wes Anderson film is opening here pretty soon, early June. So you're going to see, of course, a return of some of Wes's amazing films beforehand, just to take a little refresher course, and also because they're just a delight and a great sort of early summer movie cocktail that you can enjoy.
Didn't you do that with Sean Baker recently, director of Anora?
We sure did.
Okay, yes. I saw Anora at Belcourt, blown away.
Love that movie.
And then saw that y'all were playing his past films.
Yeah, it's a thing we love. I mean, especially with someone like Sean, you know, he is an art house guy, like through and through. So from, you know, his early film Tangerine, which is shot on an iPhone. And if people haven't seen it, go back and watch it. It's just magical. Florida Project, of course. But yeah, it is a way to really see the evolution. And you know, I think, so I have an 18-year-old son who's about to go off to college. He has several friends who are interested in filmmaking. So it's also a way to allow young, maybe budding artists who are interested in filmmaking to get a little bit of a film history crash course, one movie at a time, basically.
Well, I don't want to date myself, but I'm about to say what year I graduated from Overton here in Nashville. I graduated in 1999. And I have to admit, I don't think I ever went to the Belcourt during my high school career. I understand that it was in danger of closing forever that year.
Oh, yeah.
So how was it saved?
It went through a really rough patch exactly when you were in high school. So the Carmike Corporation ended their lease agreement with the building owner, with the property owner in the mid-90s. And at that point, there was a wonderful investment group, a bunch of lovely Nashvillians who were like, well, let's lease it and operate it as an art house. And honestly, tremendous programming, really risk-taking, great programming, but it was a little bit ahead of its time, honestly. So it was called Watkins Belcourt at that point. It was linked with Watkins, the art school, and it just didn't have enough momentum audience-wise to sort of get its feet under it quite enough. So that ended up not working out. And it was at that point when the Watkins Belcourt agreement had ended and the building was kind of stagnant that Julia Sutherland, who was the first me here at the Belcourt, but even before she was running the place, was the head chief organizer of what was then called the Belcourt Yes campaign, which was modeled after the Titans Yes campaign for people who were here. And remember, like, getting the Titans to Nashville, it was that Titans Yes campaign. So the group of community members who were organizing to save the Belcourt at that point launched this Belcourt Yes campaign. And that campaign led to a lease agreement for our current nonprofit in its infancy to operate this building. Originally sort of dreamed up as a multi-use facility. So it was to show movies, but also to be a music venue and to have theater companies in here, until what emerged through community meetings and certainly just through ticket sales and other things was that, well, Nashville had theaters for theater companies, although to be fair, we still need many more. We do not have enough, but we had homes for theater companies. We had lots of music venues, but we really didn't have a curated film space, like many other cities our size did at that point. We had great commercial theaters, of course, but a Belcourt's a different thing. And I always sort of remind people that, we understand the difference between having a Bridgestone Arena and a Bluebird, right? There are different kinds of venues for different kinds of music. But this is the same with films. The Regal's great. That's where I go see, big new releases. But we're a little bit of a different animal. We work in partnership with our commercial entities to lift up film in general. But the way we operate is different. And the way we market and build audiences for films that are a little less in the mainstream is also different.
Well, I've heard in past interviews you describe kind of the evolution of Belcourt as scrappy.
Yes. We've always had to really rely on the people that were in our theater, right? There weren't large outside funders interested in the discipline that we were in. And to Nashville's credit, boy, have they stepped up. We had to really sort of educate our city on what it meant to have a nonprofit film institution, right? That we were a very important part of the cultural fabric of this town, but it was a little unusual. And that, well, it was a model that we were at the front end of that is absolutely a nationwide model now. Because we were a little bit of a pioneer on that, we had a little bit of extra work to do to explain why we were here and why we mattered. We've had to be careful marketers and fundraisers, and we've had to sort of grow the philanthropic part of our lives a little bit differently than certainly some other longer serving, more classically identified disciplines in the arts world have. There have been ballet fans and symphony fans for a long time, and they know that they need to give to support those art forms. Our world was a little bit different, so we really had to kind of create some of that out of whole cloth as we were moving through our growing years.
How does a nonprofit theater work in practice? I understand that you're largely funded by individual donors, right?
Yes, individual donors. And in terms of our philanthropy, we're very much individual donor driven. So we earn about 70 to 75% of our annual budget. And so the balance of that is money that we raise from individuals through our membership program, through individual donations. We're, of course, running a Belcourt 100 campaign right now. And we have this amazing group of donors called the Belcourt 100 Society, and they're just supported this particular year of programming by stepping up and being a member of that, even though they have memberships and all the other things. And I'd say the difference in the sort of the operating model between an independent theater like ours and a more commercial theater is that we really curate from the film first instead of what we think the box office is going to be. So if we think of film as something that needs to be shown in Nashville to Nashvillians, we'll show it whether we think 10 people are going to come or 2,000 people are going to come. It's really about the film and the craft and the filmmaker and where it intersects with the community. So, it's just a sort of a difference in approaching from the mission instead of approaching from the bottom line.
Well, whatever you're doing it great.
Thank you.
Really amazing. And I just want to lift you up more. 18 years, you've been instrumental to the success at Belcourt, really. So I'd love to know, what's your number one all-time favorite moment in your job?
Oh, wow. Another hard question. I mean, because it's an embarrassment of riches, right? When you work here, you get to have so many special moments. I mean, I think every Q&A that I've gotten to do with Nicole Kidman, there's just no better storyteller about actors and directors than Nicole, and getting to sort of be in front of audiences and talking about her work. We're a very lucky theater and city to have such an accomplished film artist in it. But, there have been other things, and one that really comes to mind, I think for a lot of us in this building, honestly, there's this wonderful documentary called Anvil, The Story of Anvil, which was a documentary about this band that was famous for a moment in the hair metal days of the 80s called Anvil, a Canadian band. The documentary was wonderful, and it was so much about musicians trying to be musicians, right? Having a big moment, having moments of struggle, having to constantly reinvent creatively and fight for their place. And so we showed the film. The band was here, and they were behind the screen. So at the end, as the credits were rolling, the screen came up, and there is the live band, and they just went straight in to their tunes. And the way the audience jumped to their feet and were just screaming and having so much fun, it was this magical intersection because it was so Nashville, the music, the film, all of it intersecting at the same time. I would say probably 95% of the people sitting in that audience knew exactly how hard those guys work, And then after that, our programming director, Toby Leonard, took them down to Broadway where they ran into people who recognized them. They got to have this great Nashville experience. And it was just perfect.
We are so lucky to have the Belcourt. So lucky to have you. Again, happy birthday, Belcourt. We love you. We love you so much. We're so happy you're still here. And here's to another 100 years.
Thank you, Marie. I just want to shout out Nashville because we would not be who we are and doing what we do if this city didn't support us so meaningfully. And by city, I mean all of the citizens living it. It really is every ticket you buy, every popcorn you buy, every membership you buy. That is what fuels us and pushes us forward. And we are exceptionally lucky to be a theater in this town.
That's all for today here on CityCast Nashville. I'll see y'all at the Belcourt. If you enjoyed the show, why not tell your friends? Rate the show, leave us a review, and subscribe to our Hey Nashville newsletter. We'll be back tomorrow morning with more news from around the city. Toodles.